Hello, my friends. Today, I want to share with you everything I have lived through. The days filled with tears, the moments when I thought there was no way out, and the kind souls who appeared in my life like sunlight after a long storm. That afternoon, the golden light of sunset streamed through the wooden window, falling softly on my hands as I arranged a few small flowers in a porcelain vase. From the yard came the laughter of little Joie, blending with the bark of our dog and the whisper of wind through the banana leaves. Nam, my husband, was fixing the porch roof, glancing back at us from time to time, smiling with quiet warmth. This little house isn't luxurious, but to me, it is an entire world of peace. Every brick, every wooden plank carries the traces of days I will never forget. Days when I thought I no longer had the strength to go on. The happiness I hold now is the reward after so many storms. And sometimes I still ask myself, if I hadn't met Nam that day, would I ever have made it here? I once had a home, but I've learned that not every house is a shelter of happiness. My husband was a harsh and violent man. He often came home drunk, the smell of liquor heavy in the air, his words sharp, his hands even sharper. I endured, foolishly hoping that one day he would change. But one night, in a drunken rage, he smashed the bowl in my hands and shouted, "Get out of my house. I don't need a useless woman like you." I stood there, frozen. Outside, the rain fell hard, but the cold inside me was far worse. With nowhere to go, I gathered a few old clothes and left the house I once called home, carrying nothing but fear, shame, and a broken soul. For days, I wandered from village to village, searching for work. Sometimes I slept beneath someone's roof, sometimes under the trees at the edge of the forest. Hunger, cold, and loneliness followed me everywhere. I truly thought my life would end that way. Then, one early morning, as I walked along a damp forest path, I heard a faint cry, the sound of a baby weeping, weak and desperate. I followed the sound, and there she was, a woman, trembling, placing a tiny baby on a flat stone before running away. I called out, but she only turned back through her tears and whispered, "Please, someone, take care of my child." And then she was gone. I stood still, stunned. The baby was only a few months old, wrapped in a torn blanket, her face smudged with dirt, but her eyes, they were clear, bright, and full of life. She looked at me, sobbing softly, her little hands clutching my sleeve as if afraid to be alone. In that moment, I didn't think, I just acted. I lifted her into my arms and held her close. "From now on, Mama won't let you cry again." I named her Swai, simple, green, and full of life, like the first sign of hope after a long storm. Since that day, Zwei and I have lived depending on each other. No money, no home, no family, just two hearts bound by love and fear. I worked wherever I could, in cassava fields, in lumber yards, anywhere people still had a bit of kindness left. By day I labored, and by night I held her close as we slept inside an abandoned hut, listening to the wind whisper through the cracked wooden walls. On quiet nights I would stroke her tiny head and whisper, "No matter how hard life gets, my child, Mama will never leave you. I promise." I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing for sure. From that day on, I was no longer alone. That day was a summer morning. The sky was clear after a night of rain. I rose early, left little Zwei with an old neighbor, and began the walk up the hill to pick lychees for hire. The dirt path wound through the hillside, slick with leftover rainwater. I carried a heavy basket on my back, every step slow and tiring, my shirt soaked with sweat. When the basket was full, I turned to go home, but slipped and fell down the slope. A sharp pain shot through my leg. I couldn't stand. Just as panic crept in, I heard the distant sound of a motorbike. A man in a police uniform stopped, his eyes filled with concern. He rushed toward me, turned off the engine, and gently helped me up. "Are you hurt? Did you twist your ankle?" I nodded, unable to speak. He examined my leg and said quietly, "It's swollen. Let me take you home. It's too dangerous to walk." I stammered, "It's fine, I can manage." He met my eyes, calm yet firm. "Out here in the forest, one more fall could be worse. Please, get on." I didn't dare look at him directly. I only saw the kind smile beneath his helmet. He lifted me onto his motorbike, and as we rode through the winding hills, the wind tangled my hair and carried away my shy "Thank you." My home was nothing more than a small hut at the foot of the hill, its thatched roof faded and thin. When he stopped there, little Zwei came running out, just awake, her eyes still sleepy. He smiled at her kindly. "Such a good girl. Your mother fell, so take care of her, all right?" I stood, speechless. He left soon after, leaving behind only the faint scent of gasoline and dust. I thought that would be the end of it. But a few days later, he came back, this time with a small bag. Some bread, a can of milk, and a jar of ointment. "This will help with the swelling," he said, placing it on the table, and left before I could thank him. From that day on, he began to visit, sometimes bringing rice, sometimes milk for Zwei, and sometimes just a few gentle questions. Was the harvest good this year? Is the little one eating well? He didn't talk much, but each time he came, he left behind a quiet warmth, like sunlight slipping through the leaves, touching the corners of a heart long left in shadow. Once, half teasing, I asked, "Why do you help me so much? There are others who need it more." He smiled, his eyes looking toward the forest line. "If I can help someone, I will. Out here, people survive by holding each other up." Those simple words stayed with me. From that accidental fall on the lychee path, I had met a man whose kindness was rare and real. And without realizing it, my life had already begun to turn toward a gentle, glowing light. The light that bore his name, Nam. In those days, life for my daughter and me slowly began to get better. Thanks to Nam's help, I had steady work, and he repaired our little hut so it could withstand the sun and the rain. Little Zwei grew up surrounded by laughter, wrapped in the warmth of kind people. But peace is always fragile. One afternoon, Nam came by, quieter than usual. He told me he had received a transfer. He had to leave the region for a long time. I stood silent, unable to speak. Inside, it felt as though the ground beneath me had vanished. I held Zwei's hand tightly and watched his figure disappear along the red dirt road, a soft fear rising inside me. It wasn't long before misfortune found us again. The owner of the hut we lived in, who had once been kind, suddenly demanded the land back, saying he needed it for a stable. I begged to stay just a few more days, but he said coldly, "You've stayed long enough. Leave today." The rain fell hard. Our few belongings were soaked. I carried Zwei, clutching bags of old clothes, walking down the muddy road with no idea where we'd sleep that night. I held her close, the rain mixing with my tears. With no other choice, we began wandering again, searching for another roof, somewhere no one knew the names lytucam and little Zwei. The sky that day was heavy and gray. Wind rushed through the bare trees. I carried Zwei in my arms, both of us weak from hunger after nearly a day without food. I meant to reach the small market across the hill to ask for work, but my legs gave out. She slept in my arms, her face pale. I tried to take another step, but everything went blurry. I collapsed by the roadside. When I woke, I found myself inside a small hut with a low roof, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke. Beside me, Shuai was sleeping soundly, covered with an old but clean blanket. A gray-haired man sat by the fire, turned to me, and smiled kindly. "You're awake. I found you both passed out on the road and brought you here. Luckily, I came by in time." I tried to sit up, my voice trembling. "Thank you, sir. I don't know how to repay you." He waved his hand gently. "Don't worry about that. Everyone has hard times. Stay here for now. We'll figure the rest out later." From that day, Mr. Tien became the second angel in my life. He gave us a corner of his hut behind the banana grove, brought us rice, dried fish, and boiled vegetables each night. When he learned I could still work, he found me a job picking greens in the nearby village. That simple hut, the warmth of the fire, and the kindness of that humble man slowly healed a heart that had been frozen for far too long. And there, in the quiet of the hills, amid the whispering forest, my daughter and I began again. Life in Mr. Juin's hut slowly brought stability to my daughter and me. I worked around the village, picking vegetables, washing clothes, helping wherever I could. Each evening, little Zwei played in the yard, while I lit the fire and watched thin blue smoke drift between the mountains. It was peaceful, so peacefully simple. But peace, I learned, never lasts forever. After Nam left for his distant post, people began to talk. At first, it was only whispers. "That too come. Old Juin seems to care too much for her." Then the stories grew sharper, twisted into cruelty. "She knows how to use kind men. Whoever pities her, she clings to." Their words cut deep, each rumor a knife twisting where the heart was weakest. I stayed silent, avoiding everyone, even Mr. Juin, who had always treated me like his own daughter. I feared that my presence might tarnish his good name. But he understood. Each morning, when he saw me leave quietly for work, he would say in his gentle, steady voice, "Don't worry about them. If you live with honesty, the sky knows, and so does the earth. Good people will understand too." I couldn't answer, only bowed my head, fighting the tears that burned behind my eyes. The less I spoke, the more he seemed to understand. Then, one afternoon, while I was hanging laundry behind the hut, his wife suddenly returned. When she saw me, anger filled her eyes. "So it's you. How long have you been living here? Is it because of you that he never comes home?" I froze, trying to explain, but she wouldn't listen. Her words struck like whips, each one leaving an invisible scar. I held Zwei close, tears falling before I could stop them. I was about to gather our things and leave when Mr. Tien arrived and saw everything. He walked forward, his voice calm but firm. "You misunderstand. This woman and her child have done nothing wrong. They're here to rebuild their lives, not to destroy anyone's." His wife said nothing, but tears streamed down her face. I stood silently, clutching my child, my heart aching. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'll leave. I don't want to cause trouble." He shook his head, his voice low, rough with emotion. "No, you don't need to go. People lash out because they love, but one day they'll understand. And as for me, I believe in you." His words felt like a small flame flickering against the chill of a long winter night. And in that moment, I understood. No matter how cruel human tongues can be, kindness is the one thing that never dies. Time passed as swiftly as the wind. The mountains remained the same, quiet and ancient. Only human hearts had changed after so many storms. One early morning, while I was carrying water from the stream, I heard the familiar hum of a motorbike. I looked up. It was Nam. He stood there, his police uniform worn and dusty, the same gentle smile as always, but his eyes were deeper now, calmer, filled with quiet strength. I couldn't say a word. He walked closer, placed his hand gently on my shoulder, and said, softly but firmly, "I'm home, LyTucam." Just 3 words, yet they washed away every weary year, every wound my heart had carried. From that day on, life for my daughter and me turned to a new page. Nam and Mr. Tien helped me rebuild a small house on a patch of wild land behind the hill, a place once covered only in weeds. 2 men, one a policeman, the other a farmer, worked side by side, hammering each plank, raising each post. I could only stand there, watching with tears streaming down, not from sorrow, but from gratitude so deep it ached. When the house was finished, Nam looked at me tenderly and said, "This house belongs to everyone, but you are the one who will keep its fire alive. Live well, LyTucam." I didn't answer. I simply bowed my head, hiding my tears beneath the rim of my hat. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to me with such trust. Thanks to him, I found work at the local vegetable cooperative. At first, my hands were clumsy. The soil didn't seem to trust me either. But little by little, I learned to feel its breath, to understand the rhythm of life beneath my fingertips. Each morning, as the rows of green sprouts rose through the mist, I felt as though the earth itself was forgiving me. Zwei grew taller, bright, and cheerful. She loved following Mr. Tien to the garden, and whenever Nam came by, she would run out shouting, "Uncle Nam is here! Mom, he brought me bread!" He would laugh, meal, and pat her head, his smile gentle as morning sunlight. I watched them, and my heart felt full. Perhaps because, deep down, I knew that I had finally found a true home. That evening, rain drifted in from the foot of the hill. Heavy drops beat against the thatched roof, mingling with the wind that whispered through the banana trees outside. I had just lit the fire when I heard the sound of a motorbike stopping at the gate. It was Nam. He stood there soaked through, his police uniform clinging to him, but his eyes, gentle, familiar, still held that quiet kindness I would never forget. He paused for a moment before speaking softly. "The rain's getting heavy and the road is slippery. I came to see if you and the little one are all right." I smiled faintly and shook my head. "We're fine. You're the one who's drenched, coming all this way in the storm." He didn't reply. He simply gazed at the fire, its red glow flickering across his weathered face, half lost in thought, half at peace. After a long silence, he turned toward me, his voice low and calm, blending with the rhythm of the rain. "I know life has hurt you deeply. I don't want you to think I pity you, but if I could, I'd like to walk beside you, even if it's only through ordinary days." Those simple words fell into my heart like a warm drop after a long, cold rain. I said nothing. I just stepped closer, placed my warm hand over his, a hand that had rescued so many, yet trembled now at the touch of a weary woman like me. He gently tightened his grip. Neither of us spoke again. Only the steady rain on the roof and the soft breath of 2 people beside a glowing fire. Outside, the rain kept falling, but inside my heart, the sun had risen. After all the storms, I had finally found a place to rest, a shoulder that truly belonged to me. Now, looking back, I understand. If not for the cold, rainy days, I would never have learned to treasure the sun. If not for pain, I would never have known the true worth of kindness. My life began in loss, but it ended in love. The love of a quiet policeman, an honest farmer, and all the strangers who restored my faith in human goodness. I write this story not to complain, but to remind myself that happiness does not come by chance. It is born from courage and from hearts that know how to care. Under the porch, Nam placed a hand on my shoulder and asked softly, "What are you thinking about so quietly?" I smiled, just remembering the long road we've walked. If it weren't for you, perhaps Swai and I wouldn't have made it this far. He squeezed my hand gently and whispered, "No, Tucam. It was you who saved me first." From afar, little Swai came running, throwing her tiny arms around us and laughing. "Mom, Dad, I love you more than anyone in the world." We looked at each other and smiled. Outside, the last sunlight of the day glowed on the red roof tiles, shining like a quiet promise. And after every storm, the light, the real light, finally stayed.
Chúng ta vừa cùng nhau đi qua một hành trình nhỏ nhưng lại chất chứa thật nhiều cảm xúc, từ những nỗi buồn, những giọt nước mắt cho đến cả những khoảnh khắc bình yên, giản dị vô cùng quý giá. Cảm ơn bạn đã đồng hành và lắng nghe đến tận những giây phút cuối cùng. Mỗi một lượt xem, mỗi một ánh mắt dừng lại, mỗi một trái tim cùng đồng cảm đều là nguồn động lực để cho những câu chuyện như thế này được tiếp tục viết nên. Nếu cuộc sống còn buồn bề, đôi khi chỉ cần những giây phút ngắn lại là sẽ nhận ra rằng niềm tin, lòng nhân ái và sự sẻ chia luôn có sức mạnh chữa lành kỳ diệu. Và cũng chính nhờ có bạn, người không ngại dành thời gian quý giá để đồng hành và hành trình của những vật trong câu chuyện này trở nên trọn vẹn hơn, ấm áp hơn. Dù phía trước vẫn còn nhiều chông gai, nhưng chỉ cần trái tim con người biết hướng về nhau thì bóng tối nào sẽ được soi sáng bởi một tia hy vọng. Xin gửi đến bạn lời cảm ơn chân thành nhất. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong các tập tiếp theo.